Hey, everybody. Welcome to the HB podcast. Today we have John Evans, our resident sports psychologist, the man, the myth, the legend. The beard keeps growing longer
And
uh,
grayer.
and grayer. Time keeps flowing past us.
Uh-huh.
Our Your kids are getting older. My back is getting older. My
Mhm.
pickleball game is improving, which is
That's
big
what I
news
hear.
big
Look
news
forward
down
to the
here
summer.
in Raleigh. So all my northern Michigan friends, if you guys want to play some pickleball this summer, I'm always up for a game. $5 a point. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. The school year is winding down. Club soccer, which now my 7-year-old is in, which is something I was resistant to, is coming to a close. Um, but business always picks up at this time of year, so
Nice.
which is good.
Well, we wanted to get into some of that stuff we were just chatting about. Last time we had talked about playing in self compassion rather than self loathing. This idea of distress tolerance. Challenging kids through sport to raise their level of tolerance, not internally, but also just to to handle adversity, to handle the obstacles in their way. And I think a lot of the issues in AAU, kind of stem around this. We pay to play, and I think HB, this program for me is more of a European model, which is no, we pay to develop. You're
Hmm.
you're not here to necessarily get minutes in every single game. I think roles should change during games. The players that are playing better should play more. If you're in a close game, obviously, if it's a blowout either way, I love when kids get to play equally.
Hmm.
But how do you, how do you help parents that are expecting their kids to have the same result or the same amount of success every game or the same amount of minutes every game? And then the second thing is, how do you pause in these tough moments as a parent or a player, um, and not just react to the environment and the stimuli around you?
Well, I mean, I think for me, the first thing that comes up with that is, parents obviously have a high expectation of their kid. They've got a high expectation of their coaches and how, to your point, like playing time. What I think a lot of parents miss out on is, well, then where are the high expectations for yourself? Whether it's self control or allowing your kids some autonomy and the independence to approach a coach about playing time, and as opposed to jumping in and saving them. A lot of that comes from some of the research that we were talking about before we started, which is, from that book, The Comfort Crisis, which is like, look, our comfort zones are decreasing and conflict is just uncomfortable. And asking and going to talk to a coach as an eighth grader or a sixth grader or a 10th grader or a college kid is uncomfortable. But I think from a parent's perspective, we're not, the expectations continue to be outcome based: minutes, points, rebounds, turnovers, wins, losses.
Mhm.
Um, where, if we could just shift that a little bit for the expectations, whether there's a set of team values or the family's values, like, look, the value is competition, or the value is dedication or perseverance or courage or autonomy. And I have more agency over that. I can always control, we've had many examples of this in our own lives together, is competitiveness. I can control being and acting in ways that align with competitiveness. That doesn't mean I'm going to score 20 points. That doesn't mean I'm going to be a starter. um, but I think what parents again are missing is the expectations that are based on values rather than outcomes, and then expectations for themselves. I mean, the expectation as a parent should be, you do not coach in an eighth grade level. Like, you do not coach your kid during a game. I think there should also be an expectation that you do not approach the coach after a game, or in a passive aggressive or straight up aggressive email or confrontation face to face about your kid's playing time at that level. You just
Mhm.
don't. That's not something that's appropriate. And I think that can be established through team norms, um, agreements at the beginning of a season, meetings, collaborations, workshops where parents are on board with this idea that the team values are that, the kid takes agency of some of these things.
What if you think though, as a parent, that your kid really is the best player, or
But
that he
you have to, I mean, obviously you're gonna, I mean, listen, you gotta, we are constantly bombarded by our own biases in life. One of the easiest to identify should be that you think your kid is the best.
yes.
Right? I mean, there's other sneakier ones, but having this belief that your kid is more talented or deserves more playing time is the ultimate cliche of all biases to me, especially within sports.
Yeah.
And so your ability to step back and say, okay, listen, maybe he is or she is, but ultimately it's not up to me. And if I really am that in much disagreement, then I need to change teams.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is doing your kid no good to go up to a coach and yell at them because they're not getting the playing time.
And I would even take this a step further than, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, but I think a lot of parents miss on the opportunity to support their kid and challenge their kid in the same vein. If my kid thinks he's the best player and I think he's the best player and I'm angry about playing time and my kid is not playing, what a great opportunity to say, hey, like, let's figure out exactly what the coach wants, what we need to work on, and then let's go create a plan to get better at those things.
Yeah, but that's uncomfortable, Trev. That takes effort.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's like
That takes effort. And I just want to convince the coach that you should get to play the
yeah.
way you are.
I mean, I didn't, I went through adversity early on in my high school career. Coach Starkey was a traditional coach. He didn't bring up freshmen, he didn't bring up sophomores. And for me, I just remember thinking, like, I'm better than some of these guys in front of me, and I'm coming off the bench. And my
You're
dad
coming back from a broken ankle too, if I
also
recall
coming back
correctly.
from 17 broken ankles. There's a lot of adversity there. But I remember my dad, I didn't know this. My dad behind the scenes was that dad. He wrote that email.
Mm.
He actually he hand wrote a letter. Like, who sends a letter handwritten? But it was basically saying exactly what we're talking about. Trevor is your best player. Trevor should start. Trevor should play.
Hmm.
And I think if which didn't help.
No, of course it didn't help.
Coach Starkey would never, like, he's a coach. He's doing the, he's running the team. We're an awesome team, and I think, like, at the end of the day, we were winning. At the end of the day, he's making the best decisions to keep the chemistry of the team, the synergy of the team, balanced. And I think a lot of parents don't think about that. But I wish that my dad had said, like, hey,
What does Trevor need to do to be a starter?
yeah, what does Trevor need to do to grow? What does Trevor
Hmm.
need to develop more? Is it his help side defense? Is it an on ball defense? Is it rebounding? Is it hustle? Is it body language? Like, there's a million things that we can all work on. And I think those moments of, like, man, if I was a freshman and all of a sudden, instead of, like, why, I would have enjoyed that process so much more, rather than now I know my dad's upset. I'm getting caught up in this angst and tension of expecting certain things because my dad believes it,
But
and
let's even play that out. Let's say Starkey had acquiesced to your dad. Now you're starting, but you maybe don't deserve it. Now there's like a weird team culture and dynamic, and you're not developing in the
yeah,
ways you're not developing the things that he needs you to develop, and the team isn't doing as well.
yeah,
So, I mean, but I think that's unfortunately all the way back to kind of this club culture. Look, if there's a challenge there. If I'm paying 2 grand a year or more to be on a club team, and my kid's sitting the bench every
is
game,
that how much you pay,
that's the average. It's about average in Ann Arbor
man?
for a 10-month soccer season. You're
Wow.
paying about 1,800 to 2,200 probably dollars a year, depending on the age of the kid. Um, but that's a hard pill to swallow if my kid's sitting the bench
Hmm.
for that team. Now, yeah, is he developing maybe as a player? Sure. Is he going through adversity? Yes, but he's still not playing.
Yeah.
And the money that's being shelled out. And if I'm now, and this is actually something I've observed too, is you're watching these parents kind of go over and they put their arms around the coach and they're whispering, they're whispering in the ear and playing that. that
Uh-huh.
kind of rapport building game, but it's really like a passive aggressive. I'm gonna float
Play
this
my
out
kid.
there, and yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
or my
yeah.
kid's the best kid on the team, so I get to waste 10 minutes of practice by talking to you, but
Mm,
practice should have started 10 minutes ago,
right.
type of thing, which I've seen. So the culture of the team is such that because of the high amount that people pay, because of those expectations, that I should have a say. If I paid this much, I should have a
Yeah.
say in this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer to that is, to be honest, because it's the system right now in a lot
Yeah.
of on a lot of programs.
That's true. That's true. I think that's one of the things that I don't like the idea of paying to play as much as I like the idea of paying to learn or paying to I think the expenses that come with running a program, where we develop kids, gym rentals, jerseys, tournament entry fees, all that
Refs,
stuff. Like that's where a lot of the money goes. Like at the end of the day, we're not charging $2,000. Dang, I got to raise my prices, dude. Sorry, families. But like to me, I want to offer the kids, in our first year, I want to look back and say, oh my gosh, these kids for, 7, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months had continuity in their programming and their skill development. And that's and I want them to have fun and get challenged when they play. And I think when they go down to these tournaments, that's the whole point. What do I got to work on when I come back up north? Because everybody up north, we don't have the competition that, Ann Arbor has or Flint or Detroit or, Grand
hmm
Rapids. We don't have the resources in terms of like skill trainers we can go to every day. Every kid now has a skill trainer. I don't, I think that, Northern Michigan's just behind in that. And I think the development piece that, we're trying to add is the value that people are paying for, not the playing time, not the, all that other stuff that you can get wrapped up in as a coach. Like, hey,
hmm
coach, my kids, like, and, less than 1% of kids, high school basketball players are going to get a scholarship at D1.
hmm
This isn't, this is about developing kids. And as a parent, you have to figure out, is it worth it for my kid to socialize, become a good teammate, learn how to fight through adversity? Like that's what you're getting from these,
But I
you know,
think that what that offers you the opportunity to do is on the front end have a very overt team meeting. Like it's
yeah,
like, here, this is our mission statement, this is our values, this is our vision, this is how we're running the team. Um, but then I guess the contradictory part, maybe I'll put this to you, is like, if that's the case, then in games, shouldn't everybody, is it then about winning? Are you going to play the best players? Because then it is about winning. Then
yeah,
you do care about the winning, about the game playing,
yeah,
if everybody's not getting equal playing time, because it does develop players to play in the big game in games, right?
yeah,
So I think that might be the argument. I think the question maybe we need to ask is like, okay, how do we get the parents involved? How do we make them feel like they have some involvement, but in a facilitative way, not in a debilitative way?
hmm,
Like, how do you involve the parents either as like maybe you have kind of an assistant, volunteer coach that parents can sign up for a
yeah.
session or whatever it is.
I would
Um,
love
like
parents to coach
because they
in the,
have to be involved in a way that's not yelling at the coach after the game or sending emails or handwritten letters
yeah,
to coaches,
yeah. I think I do
because
like
that
that.
just continues to like eat away the kids' attentional space. Like
Yeah,
if I need to be paying attention, but now I've got this narrative in the back of my head that's buzzing because my dad at the dinner table is like, you should be starting on this team,
yeah,
and then I'm not. Now that deteriorates my enjoyment, my motivation, if I don't start, which is not within my control.
yeah, yeah. And I think there is a balance there. I mean, I think the games, you know, for me, everybody should get in the game. Everybody should play. But I, I think the kids love to win too. I mean, that's why they're playing. That the winning is the best part, probably the best feeling you can have when
Mhm.
you put in all this work and your training and practice and you come down state and you win or you win a tournament. That is that's just kind of the proof of hard work, of the challenges you've seen, so I think there's coaches are always in this like pendulum of how can I develop and win at the same time? And sometimes, that pendulum's going to drop for a kid, and then the next game is going to go up, and then it's going to always be, you're always going to have to be adapting to whatever scenario you're in.
But this is where I think, and I think you probably adhere to this philosophy too, is like, I am not like the cliche that like it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, I think is garbage. It's about the damn destination.
Mm,
But since I can't make the destination happen, I'm better off focusing on the journey. Like if I'm on a road trip and I want to get to San Francisco, I can't just drive saying I want to be in San Francisco. I got to be like, well, I got to take I-80 West through Chicago, and I got to go through Des Moines, and maybe I stop through
hmm
Denver or whatever I do. Like, I got to focus on
I got to
what
see,
I'm doing
yeah,
today.
got
I
to see the
still want it.
Badlands.
The goal is still to get to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Like, I still want the destination is the most important. The winning is important, but since
hmm
I can't make that happen, it's just not a good place for my energy and attention. So I
Right.
might as well focus on the process and the journey.
Yeah.
But of course, it's about the destination.
The destination is fun when you get there,
Yeah, but I
you
can't get.
know?
Maybe I run out of gas. I mean, I'll extend this analogy as far as I want, but like maybe I like get
Yeah.
into a car accident and I fall short.
Yeah.
But I'll guarantee you, if the whole time between Ann Arbor and Denver, if I'm focused on just being in San Francisco and then I don't get there, I'm going to be devastated. If I'm focused on like, hey, I got to stop through Chicago and see some friends, and I went through the Badlands, and the road trip was fun, and then I get to Denver and I get in a car accident, fender bender, and like I can't get to San Francisco. Yeah, I'm disappointed, but I had that development and that process along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a paradox.
But you have to, I think it really does, the organization, the team culture, the values, the mission statement of, has to be upfront. And I think it's perfectly reasonable to get parents to sign some letter of like
Oh boy.
accountability or
Yeah.
whatever that has some stipulations of
Yeah. Now I
behavior.
think maybe next year we'll add that to the, to the, to the sign up process, having that.
I mean, it's eight. So listen, this is age dependent. Like is 7. He can't advocate for himself fully with a coach at this point. So
hmm
if there's something that happens, he got taken out of a game just last weekend where he was observed not having, enough, like he wasn't getting back, he wasn't putting in the hustle,
Uh-huh.
and his coach told him that. And I it was like, yeah, you weren't, but that doesn't mean I can't talk to, but I want to talk to the coach, but like he needs to hear that.
Yeah.
Mate, and this didn't happen in this situation, but like, can he hear that in a different way or at a different time? Can you focus more on that at practice, and then you can kind of highlight it and reinforce that need at games? But I didn't see it at practices.
hmm
So 7-year-old and 8-year-old, those levels need a little bit more advocacy from parents. But again, it still has to be. But once you get to a certain age, and this is obviously gray, but to me, it's like it's got to be the parent, or but got to be the kid, got to be the athlete that's leading the conversations.
Yeah. How do you address let's say a kid wants to level up. He really wants to take that jump from playing a little bit to becoming a starter, or going from a starter to, you know, leveling up to the next, to the best player, or, playing up in age group. We got into this conversation, and I think one of the things, how would you a kid that needs motivation to really start working on their own time, how would you use kind of sports psych as like, what models do you use to help an athlete lead themselves, to get more motivated to come home from school and get out on the driveway, or get in the, do some speed and agility footwork drills, just do stuff that is uncomfortable, for a lot of athletes, doing 15 minutes of ball handling or dribbling every day is uncomfortable, doing
Mhm.
some of the athletes that we have, I challenge them. I call it the 100-day challenge. Now it started at 21 days. Now they're getting up to 100. And I'm friends with a lot of, some of these kids and their families. And I say, yeah, if you get 100 days of even 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day of dribbling or shooting, or just kind of help, working on your game, we hang that carrot out. We'll give you $100. And then I usually split it with, my friend or the parent. So I'm paying $50 to help this kid who I'm just trying to get them motivated
Mhm.
externally. And sometimes that works, but how do we do it where we don't have to hang a $50, $100 reward or a new pair of Jordans or a new video game? What do
Mhm.
you kind of use with athletes to help them level up?
Uh, yeah, I mean, that is always going to be, I think again, I think, well, I will start this with like the disclaimer that this is also age dependent.
Yeah.
Like right now, I have a process I use with Jack, where I took these 10 fake gold, like plastic gold tokens, and I wrote DT, dad tokens.
Mm.
And when he earns 10 of them, I pull him out of school early. We go, he loves golfing. I like, driving the cart and swinging the club a few times. And
Uh-huh.
so I've done that. Like he's gotten his 10 twice now. But the way he earns them is very specific. Well, for me, it's value oriented. So I was like, listen, you're never going to know when you're going to earn one. It's not a specific, like, score a goal, nothing like that. It's acts of independence, courage, kindness, and I can't remember the fourth category, but
Effort.
yeah, right. I mean, yeah, right.
Effort would be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I see those things, whether it's just picking up your own toys at home or doing something at soccer practice or choosing to take your soccer ball down to the basement and just kick the ball against the side of the couch until you get 50 passes in a row,
Mm.
like any of those things, like those are what are going to earn you these dad tokens. But it's value based. It's the source is the value. And when you can get kids focused on the value, okay, why do you want to be a starter? Okay, because I just want to be able to say I'm a starter on the team. Well, why? Well, because it's important to me that I'm playing with the best players on the court at that particular time. Okay, why?
Hmm.
And if you can get to like, well, why do you want this? Is it just like, if it's just I mean, it's usually not. Like, it's not just some superficial thing. Maybe it comes down to like, I want your approval as the parent.
Hmm.
Okay, well, why? Because I want you to love me. Okay, well, I do. I love you and I'm proud
Hmm.
of you, but I think that's a good goal. If you can drill down to like and start with the root of it is why they're doing it, and
Hmm.
you can get them on board with that, then but I think you also have to, in some senses, model it with them, right? If a parent is just sitting on their phone all day, on the couch all day, or um you know they asked, hey, I'm going to go outside and play soccer, and you're like, no, go ahead, yeah, fine, go ahead. I mean, I think there needs to be some independence, but again, age dependent. But you also have to like show excitement and um enthusiasm when they do make those choices. That starts extrinsic, but it becomes intrinsic when you show that level of support and encouragement and challenge.
Hmm.
So I think some of it is like drilling down to what are those, like, what's a 7, 8, 9, even 10, 11, 12-year old might not know like what their values are, but you can get to it if you ask enough why questions.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I think that you know, even as an adult, if you really drill down to your own anxieties or fears or procrastination, like, why am I waiting to clean the house? Why am I waiting to go work out? Why am I like, well, because it's uncomfortable. Why am I uncomfortable if I know fitness and exercise are good for my mental health, or
Mhm.
going to hang out with friends, create social bonds is, you know, the, creates well-being and, why am I, and if you keep dissecting and drilling down, I like to think that it's just our ego trying to keep us static or our
Safe
safe.
in our
It's
comfort zone.
our limbic processing center is like, no, we will not go out into, stay safe,
Hmm.
stay secure, stay right.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of it just comes down to not that a 7 or 12-year-old can do this, but to challenge your own kind of ego mind, I would call it. I mean, that's the word I use for it, because it's like this, it's just a little voice that's just constantly running, telling me, you got you can stay up, you just watch another Netflix, watch it, play another video game. You don't need to work on the thing, to practice the things that bring you joy. Just
Hmm.
wait, and so you end up kind of, you without being aware of that voice, you are in inaction rather than action. And I
Hmm.
think, the best athletes, the happiest humans, the thriving people in this world are constantly in action. Whether it's like, hey, buddy, let's go. Hey, I'll rebound for you. Let's get 100 makes today. If
Hmm.
that's something you want to do, I'll help rebound. Like, do parents go out and even, fight against their own need to be on their phone or watch TV after a long day of work? That inaction as a parent is not helping your kid either, not engaging with your kid in a fun,
Well, and
meaningful
you just
way.
said the word that sometimes like some parents will do it, but it'll become such a chore because they're like, no, that wasn't a perfect pass, start over, or
Mm,
what, and it's
yeah.
not now. It's not. It's got to be fun. I mean, it has to be, especially at that age. It's got to be fun.
Yeah.
Like they're not, the difference between deliberate play and deliberate practice, right? This is deliberate play is mostly what we do up to about the age of 9 or 10. And then they start to kind of blend. And now I do some deliberate practice. And by the time you get to high school and college and you're in all deliberate practice. It's not that it's not enjoyable, but there's not deliberate elements of fun mostly. Um, and if at 7, 8, 9, you're taking them out there and it's just about the drill and
Hmm.
it's just about the,
Yeah.
the,
Go
and it's
play
like,
horse. Go play pig. Go play.
yeah, make it a
Yeah.
competition, but make it fun or
Yeah.
make something creative up or, whatever.
Right.
Make an obstacle. I've made an obstacle course out of like passing through cones and running and doing zig and like
Hmm.
agility stuff, but it's an obstacle course.
Yeah.
So then it's fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you
but
do
I,
timed games? I know I do a lot of timed games with kids
yeah.
where, you have, okay, we're going to see how many seconds it takes you to get, 5 around the elbow layups, with your right hand. Got to get 5 makes, did it take you 40 seconds? Well, all right. And then the next time you come out, let's see if you can beat it. Um, yeah. Or shooting games where, can you make 3 in a row from 5 feet, at 5 spots in two
But I think
minutes?
what people, what the that don't they don't realize about an exercise like that is like you're instilling in them the idea that they're beating themselves.
Yeah.
It's not about beating somebody else.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
about can
You're
I
competing
improve?
against
Can I
yourself.
keep competing against myself?
Yeah, it's like that's what I admire about endurance athletes. I mean, these people, I think some of the endurance, talk about a comfort crisis. Every time I try to get myself to run, I'm in a comfort crisis. Or anytime I try to get myself to, to work out, I'm like, oh man, I did this for a living. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to stay strong and mobile and flexible. But then I'm like, wait, actually, I do. Quality of life is better. My mental health is
Well, but
better.
I think you also have to be like obviously, I mean, I just really don't like running. But what I've
Yeah.
found recently, and actually it
You've
was
never liked it. I mean, why?
never
Because your mom used to make you run. Remember,
uh,
she'd be like, "Get over to the." No,
the
she didn't say
park
that.
and run this hour and a half, mile and a half every morning in the
You
summer.
you would do the mile and a half every for soccer,
Hmm.
which I think is, I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't. How do you feel about that? Because I felt like
I
you
mean, I mean, I think it's on me. I mean, I know
it's probably
I can
good
see it
for
both
you.
ways. It was good for me.
Yeah,
Um, but it didn't instill like any kind of joy in running, which okay, I mean, it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Well, I don't
But what
think
I've
anybody.
started
There's no
doing, I
joy
do.
in running. There's never joy in running. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's weird because apparently there is. I
I
don't
know
know anything
people.
about it, but
I think it becomes like at a certain point meditation for people. They essentially, um I was, when I was running a lot before, before I hurt my back, after a while, the endorphin rush of how I felt after was why I start, oh man, I feel like this really like a run, they call it the runner's high.
mhm.
I would get, I would start to get that after I started doing it. I don't think you
I
get,
would a little bit too, but the plus minus was never on the plus side.
yeah,
But what I've started doing now, Trev, is I do rucking. So I basically
rucking.
yeah,
What
it's
is
way more
that?
like you'll understand you'll be like, yeah, this is more for John, for you, for your body type. Just put a bunch of heavy weight in a backpack and
Oh,
walk or ruck shuffle, they call it,
yeah,
like
yeah,
jog,
yeah.
maybe like a 4 or 5 mile an hour pace max for like block on, block off, walk. And you put 45 pounds in a backpack like that, and
Man.
but it also keeps you, like, I've noticed when I walk, like, you start to hunch
Uh-huh.
when you
You
wear
keep
like a
that good
big
posture.
backpack with like the waist strap and everything, like, but again, I think that to me is, that's bringing in, there's an element of like enjoyment. I feel like I'm hiking or like
Mhm.
doing something, like back when I was working with the military and I'd go on these field training exercises and we do this.
Yeah, you
It
when
just feels
you were
it just
training
feels better.
killers.
Yeah, it feels better. Um, uh, but for me, back to something that, like, the brain and the comfort, and you'll love this because you did this for a while. Maybe you still, I don't know when the last time you did a triathlon, but I'm always coming up with excuses not to do a triathlon.
Yeah.
I don't have a road bike. It's weird to train. How do I make do the transitions? Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
how do I
yeah.
show up for this? Like, blah 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 blah. All this crap. Well, I'll do an indoor one. I'm like, oh, that sounds boring.
Yeah.
Um,
It does sound boring.
and so it's like I just keep I really want to do, I aspire to do, but I literally, even for myself, knowing all what I know about psychology, about the psychology of it, continue to find ways of staying inside my comfort zone when it comes to a triathlon in
Yeah.
particular. But
Yeah. That
for kids, like, you have to, like, think back to your original question. You've got to provide, and you said the combination of the equation that works is like accountability and challenge with support. Like, I've got it for Jack, a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, even 9-year-old. I probably have to provide some of the structure for what that looks like.
mhm.
Um,
I
but
like
then
that star. I like how you give the star, like the 10 stars or the 10 dad stars,
tokens,
like,
yeah.
oh, the parent family, like that to me, because it's random. So they're not doing
Well, and
something
it can
to,
also be earned outside of soccer. Like,
right,
it does. It's
right.
not soccer centric.
Yeah.
It's value centric. Like on any platform.
I love that. I mean, talk about effort. I just get so happy when I see kids giving effort in what they love to do. If we can coach and teach and mentor kids to put effort into the most meaningful struggle, they will, they will figure out how to make it through life in a meaningful way. And I think that is what you're talking about. You are not structuring Jack's soccer training, from point A to point Z, especially when he's that young. Like you're saying, the deliberate practice, you're just trying to teach him these values, the mental side of the game is all about, to me, meaningful, high levels of effort and meaningful struggle. Like you have to continue to want to push through this internal mental struggle that we all go through. You're talking about with triathlon, adults go through it. It is like the one thing that will stay, be a part of our existence, unless you become enlightened or something, unless you
No, I mean, like, the creator founder of this ACT, acceptance commitment therapy and techniques, Stephen Hayes, says, psychological suffering is a normal, inevitable part of the human condition. Like, sorry,
yeah,
you're gonna incur challenge and struggle and
yeah,
and hardships all the way through. It's guaranteed.
yeah,
Um, so the people, though, that go, this is where it comes all the way back to some of the parents. Like, if I try and do this Zamboni parenting where I'm like smoothing the ice for my kid all the time and talking to the coaches myself and making sure they're getting the playing time and making excuses and not letting them struggle and pay, trailblaze their own path at some point.
yeah,
But this is not, that's not age specific. Like, I can do it. Jack this morning was having trouble putting his sweatshirt on because he refused to pull the arm out of the sweatshirt. And he's like, "Can you help?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I will help. Take the sweatshirt off and pull the, like, problem solve."
yeah,
Like, we have to do that. Like, at all ages, there's things that
yeah.
you can do for your kids to help them
I have a lot of mental resistance
build that.
around chores, which I know I know John knows this because when we were kids, um, which is interesting because like I always loved to play. I wanted to play every day. I wanted to
Uh-huh.
play, play, play. play soccer, play tag, play basketball, play football, like, but I think what your um, mom did too was you also had this responsibility to put effort into everything else in life,
Hmm.
that it's not just play. Sometimes you have to move towards that other end of the spectrum of like,
You
okay,
maxed out your energy on the basketball and the sports for the effort.
oh man, I think that, and the funny thing is now as an adult, I'm like, I love a clean house. I love the feeling of a
Hmm.
minimalistic environment where there's not a lot of clutter. You know, the floors are clean. I'm a floor guy. Like I'm like, man, the floor, we got to clean the floors. We got to clean the floors. And so like Natalia and she's like the countertop, I'm the floor, and but every day, I'm like, where does this mess come from? Where there's only two of us and two cats. Like every day I'm just like, oh my God. And so I have to like constantly, well, why do you not like chores? What is it about the work of a chore that you can't accept? What is it about the doing that if you do this, you'll feel better you'll enjoy your environment more. Why do you continue to suffer?
But
And
I
I
think
think
that when we were kids, there isn't that intrinsic drive for that.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
we're
think for you, it probably was like, if I do this, I'm taking time away from practicing basketball. Like
yeah.
using, like it's
My
just not
mom and dad
useful
weren't giving
energy.
me stars for effort on the other things. They were only giving me stars for sports. I
Mhm.
felt, like I really attached my identity to and my parents' love of like I'm gonna be the greatest. I want to be the best soccer player, the best basketball player. I just felt
Mhm.
that validation. But I do like kind of your approach. Where it's this full spectrum of effort
Mhm.
and work and kind of moving through discomfort that you are rewarding. And I love that. I mean, I think I'm going to do it myself. Every time I do a chore, I'm going to give myself a star. And then every time I get 10 stars, I'm going to go buy a pint of Ben and Jerry's and eat it.
There you go. See? Mm.
uh,
But I do. I mean, I will always come back to the fact that goals have a slippery slope down to expectations, and once you start to go down that road, like, you're reducing control and you're reducing fulfillment. If I stay on the value side, I've got high control, high fulfillment, whatever the outcome.
mhm.
And so I'm always going to push people in that direction to figure out, like, what is it you like about this, or why are you doing it? And if not, I mean, let's
Yeah.
find something else. But you know, it's got to be about
Value driven,
valued action.
value driven action, value driven
Yeah.
growth.
And again, Jack doesn't have like some core list of values at this point, but and also all he has to is my wife, Marlene and I just being saying the things that we say, and those have to reinforce values, and then he'll figure out some of his own. But until then, we have to let him know that, like, this is an expectation that there's a value of kindness,
Yeah. Do
or
you find that Jack is sometimes seeking approval or validation through sport? And as a parent, how do you love your kid if they're in that mode of like, did I do good or am I good enough
well,
for?
that's a hard. I mean, and this is somewhere that I'm doing work right now, is like maintaining a little more like body language and facial
Mm,
expression,
oh
because he
boy, yeah,
does look over a lot.
yeah. Like
Um,
the kid that looks at the mom's like freaking out or the dad is it's like yeah, like good job. I'm gonna post the highlight of you and now I'm gonna validate you scoring points and
uh-huh,
that's or scoring goals like that made mom happy. So now mom is gonna
uh-huh.
be like, oh, I'm gonna the kids can looking at, oh, my mom posted a video on Facebook or my dad, you know uh of just my good stuff or just my
Well,
like
but I
I,
mean, Jack in particular already knows beyond a shadow of a doubt. I check in with him all the time
mm-hmm.
that, like, we care about effort and attitude. Like, I could care less how many goals. We're very clear about that.
Yeah.
If he does, great. If he has an assist, I'll mention it. But ultimately, everything we talk about is going to be oriented toward the values of
Yeah.
attitude and effort. And I'll even check in. I'll be like, I asked him a couple weeks ago. I was like, Jack, do you still like me coming to your games? Do you enjoy having me there? And he's like, yeah, yeah, I do. I was like, even though I give you some hard feedback sometimes, after games about your effort, yeah, yeah. And he goes, it was like broke. I was like, not broke my heart, but it was like, oh. He was like, yeah, just really nice having somebody there that loves me.
Oh man.
So
Like good.
but so he know, like, I'm very clear. Like, I haven't said it this bluntly, but like, I was disappointed in this game, this half of this game's effort.
Yeah.
I'm not disappointed in you. You are much more than you are on the soccer field. And I make this very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And we are very clear about, it's not all about that. Yeah, but that's, I mean, listen, if I were trying to raise Tiger Woods, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's just a different expectation, different kind of what we think about what Jack's going to be, or what we want him to be in the future, or what he wants himself to be.
Yeah. I think as a parent, it takes a lot of reflection, like you're saying, kind of check in with yourself, look at yourself and see, oh, is my, how am I reacting to everything that's happening?
But all
And
the self-compassion stuff is embedded in that, because he needs to know that I can be disappointed in a performance moment, a practice, a game, a half, something that he did, a choice he made, but not disappointed in him, where it's not generalized and part of his identity that he's a failure.
yeah,
But I can say, you failed to put in the effort for this game, but
yeah.
it has to be, very
You
specific.
ran out of gas at St. Louis, bro.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
Well,
car broke down.
John, thanks for coming on today, man. Appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah,
Always a joy. Parents and families, if you guys ever want to um, hire, is it hire, consult, have a
yeah,
consultation with
free
John,
consultation.
a free consultation. I'll take a
It
free
is.
consultation. I need it. Um, you
You
know,
used all yours up a
mine are
couple of years ago.
gone, but yeah, definitely reach out to John at blendhealth.com, right? BLND health.com.
Mhm.
We'd like to thank all our sponsors. We're going to leave all our sponsors in the show notes. We got Sports Psych, screen printing, roofing, accounting, photography, sports medicine, irrigation, chiropractic care, jewelry, and then wine, beer, and spirits. Just for those,
Great.
when you want to unwind,
Yeah,
at
sometimes
night.
that is important as a parent too, to have that available for coping.
Just a quick shot of tequila at 11 p.m. after your kids are finally to bed and done with all their practices and training.
Hmm.
Really appreciate you, cuz, for coming on. And we'll see you next time
Thanks, Trevor.
on the HB podcast.
Appreciate you.
See you. Oh, I can't stop it. See, this is just going to keep going. There we go.